Shalom, family, and welcome back to another edition of Major TV News, Black Talk, and Entertainment. I am Achoti Tamar. Let's talk about the Biden administration's failed and biased immigration policy. Federal judge blocks the Biden administration from expelling migrants under COVID public health order. This article was published on September 16, 2021. A federal judge ruled on Thursday that the Biden administration may not expel migrants under a Title 42 public health order. Judge Emmett Sullivan of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia issued the ruling, which will not take effect for another 14 days under the Title 42 policy implemented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Border agents were authorized to immediately expel migrants back to Mexico in order to prevent the spread of coronavirus. In view of the wide availability of testing, vaccines, and other minimization measures, the court is not convinced that the transmission of COVID-19 during border processing cannot be significantly mitigated, Sullivan wrote in his ruling. Indeed, the government has successfully implemented mitigation measures with regard to processing unaccompanied minors in order to minimize risk of COVID-19 transmission. The Title 42 policy was initially instituted under the Trump administration at the start of the coronavirus pandemic and continued during the Biden administration. Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas said in March that the administration would exempt young children from expulsion under the order. Border Patrol agents recorded 208,887 migrant encounters at the southern border in August. Agents apprehended 212,672 migrants in July, marking the first time in 21 years that monthly number of migrant encounters rose above 200,000. Roughly 1 million migrants have crossed the southern border illegally since January, according to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection data. From the Associated Press, the Biden administration worked Saturday on plans to send many of the 1,000 Haitian immigrants who have gathered in a Texas border city back to their Caribbean homeland in a swift response to the huge influx of people who suddenly crossed the border from Mexico and congregated under a bridge. Details were yet to be finalized, but would likely involve 5 to 8 flights per day that will begin Sunday. According to an official with direct knowledge of the plans, who was not authorized to discuss the matter publicly and spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity. San Antonio, the nearest major city to Del Rio, where the migrants have gathered, could be among departure cities. The official said Friday that operational capacity and Haiti's willingness would determine the number of flights, but that good progress was being made. Another administration official who spoke on the conditions of anonymity expected 2 flights per day at most and said all migrants would be tested for COVID-19. U.S. closed traffic to vehicles and pedestrians in both directions Friday at the only border crossing in Del Rio, after the chaotic influx of migrants presented the administration with a new and immediate challenge as it tries to manage large numbers of asylum seekers who have been reaching U.S. soil. U.S. Custom and Border Protection said it was closing the border crossing with Ciudad Acuna, Mexico. To respond to urgent safety and security needs, travelers were directed to a crossing in Eagle Pass, 57 miles away. Here's another story related to the Haitian migrants. Infuriating disappointment. Biden DHS, Department of Homeland Security, ramping up deportations to Haiti, still under fire from human rights advocates after appealing a court order to stop using the COVID-19 pandemic as justification for expelling asylum-seeking families. The Biden administration on Saturday confirmed that it's ramping up deportations to Haiti and elsewhere. It is unconscionable for the Biden administration to resume deportation flights to Haiti, despite the country's ongoing political, economic, and environmental disasters. Tweeted families belong together. Stop these flights now and welcome with dignity. Faced with thousands of migrants, mostly Haitians, who huddled under and around a bridge in siliquid conditions, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on Saturday put out a statement detailing the administration's six-step strategy for the situation in the Texas border city of Del Rio. Confirming reports from late Friday, the statement also said that the department will secure additional transportation to accelerate the pace and increase the capacity of removal flights to Haiti and other destinations in the hemisphere within the next 72 hours. The Biden administration is working with source and transit countries in the region to accept individuals who previously resided in those countries. The statement added, the White House has directed appropriate U.S. agencies to work with the Haitian and other regional governments to provide assistance to support the returnees. At this point, family, we need to go back in history to fully understand how the Biden administration policy is a failed one and is biased, to say the least. The following videos that we're about to play are for educational purposes only.
Women, white women overwhelmingly voted with me, and black women were the two places where it was overwhelming because we spoke to those concerns. And Vanita, you know what I'm talking about. You and I have talked before. I don't carry around a stamp on my head saying progressive and I'm AOC, but I have more of a record of getting things done in the United States Congress than anybody you know. Anybody you know of getting things accomplished. And that sounds so self-serving. I know that. But this is going to really be hard. This is going to really, really, really be hard. And let me conclude and turn it over to Kamala, who says, what the hell am I doing with this guy right now? But all kidding aside, I've known you my whole life, most of you. I've worked with you my whole life, most of you. I've been around doing this for a long, long time. I don't always get it right, but I always take responsibility. When I get it wrong, I acknowledge I got it wrong. But my overarching objective, if we cannot make significant progress on racial equity, this country is doomed. It is doomed, not just because of African Americans, but because by 2040, this country is going to be minority white European. You hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics, who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do in terms of raw numbers. We're going to have to be working with a whole group of people that, in fact, are the single most diverse democracy in American history and anywhere in the world.
This is what he did when he received the title of President of the United States. Listen to this.
President Biden is out with a raft of initiatives tonight directed at the U.S. southern border. They come as the man who will manage migrant policy is joining his cabinet. White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor begins our coverage with a late afternoon event.
I'm going to sign a few executive orders.
President Biden focused on immigration and rolling back former President Trump's controversial policies. Today, he signed 3 executive orders on the topic. Topping the list, the creation of a task force to reunite families separated at the U.S.-Mexico border under the Trump zero-tolerance policy.
With the first action today, we're going to work to undo the moral and national shame of the previous administration that literally, not figuratively, ripped children from the arms of their families, their mothers and fathers at the border, and with no plan, none whatsoever, to reunify the children who are still in custody and their parents.
The task force will be led by Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
Senators voting in the affirmative.
After several days of delays, this afternoon, the Senate confirmed him. Biden's orders were praised by several groups, including the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, an organization advocating for separated families. It called the president's actions a monumental first step. The group said, quote, "It is incumbent upon all our elected officials to end the rampant separation and detention of migrants." The American Civil Liberties Union tweeted, quote, "Biden must reunite all separated families in the U.S., and we can't stop there. These families deserve citizenship and care." White House officials say no one knows just how many children remain separated from their families. Federal court documents put the number at more than 600. Biden aides say it could be up to 1,000. Biden will be looking into whether some families, including parents deported without their children, will be given some sort of legal status in the United States. Today's executive actions also order a review of the Trump policies that restricted legal immigration. Those include the Remain in Mexico program that sent more than 60,000 asylum seekers back to Mexico to wait for their claims to be processed in U.S. courts. Many have been forced to wait in dangerous conditions. Some have even been kidnapped and killed. The Biden administration already announced it will no longer enroll new asylum seekers in the program, but it remains unclear what will happen to those already enrolled. Also today, President Biden ordered a review of the so-called public charge rule. It denies green cards to immigrants who might require taxpayer-funded financial assistance. Meanwhile, President Biden continues his push for a $1.9 trillion COVID-19 stimulus package.
Thanks for coming down.
Last night, he held a meeting with a group of Senate Republicans who want a far smaller bill. So far, no bipartisan deal has been reached. The senators said the meeting was, quote, frank and very useful. They pledged to continue their talks. Today, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki reiterated the president's call for bold action.
There certainly is a gap between where we are and where the Republican proposal that was discussed last night.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Senate Republicans argued again for a smaller, more targeted approach that can win bipartisan support.
We're off to a totally partisan start.
So
I think that's unfortunate.
We had partisan agreement because we did pass the COVID packages. Several of them have passed since this video aired. But notice how they integrated immigration with COVID-19. Fast forward to the war, so-called ending in Afghanistan, and Afghanis who basically defected from their country, joined forces with the United States, are now here in the United States. 59 Afghan refugees to be resettled in Louisiana. This report comes to you by way of WVUE, Channel 7. The first group of Afghan refugees, nearly 37,000 people who fled during the final days of the chaotic U.S. withdrawal last month, are said to be resettled across the United States. Louisiana is stated to welcome 59, according to U.S. officials. The Biden administration has requested funding from Congress to help resettle 65,000 Afghans in the United States by the end of this month and 95,000 by September 2022. Alabama and Mississippi will each welcome 10 refugees. California is projected to take more arrivals than any other, more than 5,200 people, according to the State Department data for the Afghan Placement and Assistance Program obtained by the Associated Press. Hawaii, South Dakota, West Virginia, Wyoming, and the District of Columbia are expected to resettle anyone from the first group of evacuees. Oklahoma, which over the course of the 20-year war had resettled a relatively small number of Afghans, is slated to resettle 1,800 new arrivals. States with a historical large number of Afghans who resettled in the U.S. over the last 20 years, including California, Maryland, Texas, and Virginia, are welcoming a disproportionate number of evacuees, according to the data. Many gravitate to Northern Virginia, the Maryland suburbs of D.C., and Northern California, some of the most expensive housing markets in the country. Exclusive. Afghan family tells Fox 26 how they're settling in their new Houston home. Reported a day ago. Houston, a family is resettling. After escaping the wrath of the Taliban in Afghanistan. Refugees arriving in the U.S. usually don't want to show their faces on camera in fear of retaliation. But this man spoke exclusively with us.
Tonight, a family is resettling into a free world after escaping the wrath of the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Refugees arriving in the U.S. usually don't want to show their faces on camera in fear of retaliation, but this man spoke exclusively to us, and he wants the world to know he's safe and very thankful for the big and small things. Freedom is something that seemed unfathomable for Afghans like Atikula in a land ruled by Taliban. He only wants to go by his first name for security reasons. He was with special forces in the Afghan army for 8 years. It put him on the target kill list for the Taliban.
He was scary and everybody because they're the enemy. We were trying to find a safe place.
He desperately tried to figure out how to escape after the Taliban takeover. He was granted humanitarian parolee status. It's a ticket to a future for him and his family for the free world.
He said he's happy and safe here, so if he was right there, the Taliban may kill him. And actually, he sleep well, so everything is good here for him and his family.
His wife and small children now calling Houston home. A couple of weeks ago, they all crammed in a full military plane to leave the Taliban territory as soon as possible. There's also another small reason why the family had to quickly flee and come to a safer place.
He said he appreciated the doctors who helped them with baby and her mom.
After landing at Fort Bliss Army Base in El Paso, their baby girl was born free, a title they now all have together.
It's gonna get better day by day.
And I can tell you, Caitlin, the new American citizen is adorable. She was just out there for a little bit, only a week old. And I've
So now, family, as you can see, we have a little bit of hypocrisy coming out of the Biden administration. We have Haitians at the border, fleeing in their home country because of the recent earthquake, the assassination of their president, and its chaos in their streets. They no longer feel safe in their country. So they're seeking asylum in the United States where they can feel free to raise their family in peace and safety. On the other hand, we have the Afghanistan people. They're calling them refugees. They're also fleeing from their country that has been ruined by consistent war involving the occupation of the Afghanistan country by United States forces. United States forces were forced to leave Afghanistan and retreat back to the United States. But over the courses of the years that the United States have been there, as of September 11, 2001, they are now having to flee this country. Over that course of the years that they were there, they systematically converted Afghanis to be on their side. They joined the U.S. Armed Forces, the Army, Marines, Air Force. So when we were forced, as a nation, United States military forces were forced to leave Afghanistan, they took those individuals who had pledged their allegiance to the United States, they brought them over here as well. And so they said 65,000 plus 95,000 will be patriated into the United States from Afghanistan, even though they are Afghans. And in doing so, the Biden administration went straight to Congress to ask them to fund the resettlement of these Afghanis, gave them housing, gave them job training, gave them resettlement training so they can be acclimated into the United States of America. Why do I say the Biden administration has a failed and biased immigration policy? We have to consider how he came into office. We also have to consider what he said before he came into office. He recognized that there was going to be an influx of migrants, particularly Latino people, that will usurp the Black community. They will become the new minority majority. As he said in the video, European Americans will become the minority. So he was urging us to be prepared, us, when I say us, I mean the Black community, to be prepared to have to work with Latinos. What the Biden administration was not telling you is that there were also people that look like you and I at those borders as well. Because the article I read stated that those Haitians been at the border And since the earthquake that happened last month, we have seen an increase of our brothers and sisters from Haiti coming to the United States border. And because of that recent increase, the Biden administration, even though he attempted to roll back Trump's policy on immigration and separating families, the Biden administration is trying to use COVID-19 to keep our brothers and sisters that look just like you and I from entering the United States of America. Yet, he's welcoming the Afghanis that went from Afghani status to working with the United States, even pledging their allegiance to the United States under their own forces. They now have the benefit of the Biden administration's rollback of the Trump administration's immigration policy. They can come in as refugees and get asylum, be afforded benefits, housing, job training. These are the things that United States Black melanated people have to qualify for before we can receive those same said benefits. I want y'all to think about that. Afghanis can come over here and get housing, job training, and resettlement training to be acclimated into the United States way of life. We, on the other hand, have to apply for the very same benefits, i.e. Section 8, i.e. job force. Even though they said that they're not going to be able to allow the Afghanis to have the benefits such as Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, with the job training that they have and the unspecified amount of money that was given to them because they are, after all, affiliated with the United States Armed Forces and their families and their families. 65,000 plus 95,000 of them. They're now using your tax dollars to fund their way of life. They probably will be trained to work hand in hand with their fellow brethren who are already here, as the article stated. They're already here and have been repatriated to the American way of life. They're going to be working at your local corner store gas stations, your local hotel, motel sixes, and things of that like. Even your grocery stores. So they have no need for food stamps, Medicaid, because they have and will be given jobs. So when we look at the individual on the video from Houston, he have, he's been settled down. Like he said, he's selling it and life is good. How much money did they give each one of these families? They say they're not getting food stamps. How they eating? You gave them a place to stay. You gave them shelter. What did Congress approve as far as monthly stipends for them? Were all of them tested for COVID-19 before they got on the plane in Afghanistan? Because our brethren that's down at the border in Mexico, they will be subject to COVID-19 testing. And their babies will be allowed into America, according to the Biden administration. They will be allowed into America, waiting asylum, but their parents will be shipped back, regardless to if they have COVID-19 or not. Now, the court ordered, a court ruled that the Biden administration cannot deport anyone based on the fear of COVID-19. So that court order does not take effect until 14 days. So the Biden administration is ramping up deportation for the Haitians. You want to send them back to a country that you know that is in chaos from natural disasters and political chaos, political upheaval. Those two factors are the main factors for anyone from any country to seek asylum. There's no police force in Haiti. There's no real standing government in Haiti because the missionaries or mercenaries, same to me, took out their president. So I say the Biden administration has a failed immigration policy because it is biased. We let Afghanistan people come over here and resettle and benefit from our tax dollars. Because if you go to Congress, Congress is supposed to represent the people, and we pay taxes. We pay property taxes, sales taxes, school taxes, income taxes. They're using those funds that Congress has allocated. What is the number that they allocated to allow these Afghanis to come here and settle down and become citizens? There's no plans to deport them. They are going to settle here and be amongst us. So while Biden is talking about the Latinos that we should have to be focused on, meanwhile, he's bringing in Afghanis. What is he prepping this country for? Does he really want diversity? Or is he concerned more with the Europeans becoming extinct? Or the Europeans becoming the new minority? Or he does not have a clue as how his flip-flop on his immigration policy will determine his legacy. He has a failed immigration policy. He rolled back the Trump administration policies where Trump said, close the borders, nobody comes in. He said, oh no, we have to reunite these families. Yet, he's trying to separate Haitian families. Said children can come in, Parents got to go back. That's his immigration stand on Haitians. But his immigration stand on Afghanis is this: bring them in. They fought next to us. They believed in fighting against ISIS and the Taliban and Al Qaeda. Let them resettle right here in the United States and use your taxpayer dollars to do so. That's my take on it. That's my take on it, family. And so, I thank you for listening. I am Achoti Tamar, reporting for Major TV, Black News, Talk and Entertainment. Please like and share the video. And as always, I love you all with the love of Yahuwah. Shalom.